Let's talk about a story. It's a good one. It's about a man, a song, and a choice. The story goes that this man, a king in his own world, found a song that meant something to him. It was a risky song, a song about real life, and his father, a man who loved him and worried about him, supposedly begged him not to release it. He said it would ruin him. He said his fans would turn their backs. He said it was just too much. Is that story true? The short answer is, it's complicated. The long answer is much more interesting. It's about who this man was at that exact moment in his life. To understand the choice, you have to understand the man. And to understand the man in 1968, you have to understand that he was, in many ways, lost. He was the most famous person on the planet. But he was also becoming a joke. The world had changed. Music had changed. The Beatles were making art. Bob Dylan was writing poetry. The Rolling Stones were dangerous. And he was in Hollywood making silly movies with silly songs. He was singing about clam bakes and puppet shows. He was a lion in a cage, and the cage was made of bad scripts and forgettable soundtracks. He knew it. He felt it. The fire that made him who he was, the thing that scared parents and made kids feel alive in the 1950s, was gone. Or at least, it was buried. He was rich, he was comfortable, but he wasn't relevant. He was a beautiful monument to a time that had passed. Then came the television special, the one they now call the '68 comeback. It was supposed to be a nice, safe Christmas show. But he had other ideas. He put on a black leather suit. He walked onto a small stage surrounded by people. And for the first time in years, he looked like himself again. He was raw. He was funny. He was a little dangerous. The way he moved, the way he sneered, the way he sang. It was all there. The king wasn't dead. He was just sleeping. That special woke him up. It reminded him who he was. And it reminded the world, too. He was back. But being back wasn't enough. Now, he had to prove he could move forward. He couldn't go back to singing about beaches and race cars. The world was on fire. 1968 was a brutal year. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Robert Kennedy was assassinated. The Vietnam War was raging. Cities were burning. The country was tearing itself apart. Singing a happy-go-lucky song felt wrong. It felt dishonest. He needed something real. He decided to go back home to record. Not to Nashville, where the sessions had become polished and predictable. He went to Memphis. He walked into a studio called American Sound Studio. It wasn't a glamorous Hollywood place. It was a gritty, soulful place run by a producer named Chips Moman. The house band, the Memphis Boys, were masters of a sound that was raw and real. It was the perfect place for a man trying to find his soul again. This is where the song enters the story. A songwriter named Mac Davis wrote it. Davis grew up in Texas, and he was friends with a kid who lived in a poor part of town. He saw how the kid's life was harder. He saw the limited choices. He saw how poverty wasn't just about not having money. It was a trap, a cycle. One day, thinking about that, he wrote a story. He put it to music. It was a simple, sad story. It starts with a baby being born. The mother cries because another mouth to feed in a place with nothing is not just a joy, it's a burden. The song describes this place. It's a cold, gray world. The child grows up hungry. He learns to steal and fight. He becomes an angry young man. He buys a gun. He runs. He dies. And as he dies, another baby is born in that same place. The cycle begins again. It wasn't a protest song in the way Bob Dylan wrote them. It wasn't angry. It was just sad. It was a story told with a heavy heart. It just laid out the facts. This is what happened. This is the cycle. Look at it. The song was passed around. A few other artists heard it, but it was too heavy. It's too direct. It didn't have a happy ending. It didn't offer a solution. It just presented a problem. Then it got to him. He was in Memphis looking for real songs. He heard the demo. And he connected with it immediately. Why? He was a millionaire living in a mansion. What did he know about a place like that? Well, everything. Before the gold records, before the movies, before the fame, he was that kid. He was born in a two-room shack in Tupelo, Mississippi. He grew up poor. He knew what it was like to not have enough. He knew what it felt like to be on the outside looking in. That part of his life never really left him. He saw the truth in that story. He knew it was real. He told the people around him, I want to record this. And that's when the problem started. The people around him, his entourage, they got nervous. This was not a love song. It wasn't a rock and roll song. It was a social commentary. It was about a topic that made people uncomfortable. It was political, even if it didn't take a side. Oh, it just showed a wound. This is where the story about his father comes in. Vernon Presley was a simple man. He managed his son's finances. He loved his son, but he was also very protective of the business. The business was built on a specific image, the handsome singer. the charming movie star. The Boy Who Loved His Mama. A song about a young man dying in a slum didn't fit that image. The story goes that Vernon and others in his inner circle told him it was a terrible idea. They worried about his fan base, especially in the South. They were conservative. They didn't want to hear their hero singing about controversial topics. They wanted to be entertained. They wanted to escape. This song wasn't an escape, it was a mirror. They said it would kill his comeback before it even started. Don't touch it, they warned. It's career suicide. It's easy to see their point of view. They were trying to protect their golden goose. They saw a formula that worked, and the song broke that formula. It was a risk. A huge risk. For years, he had been carefully managed by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. The Colonel's philosophy was simple: don't offend anyone, keep it safe, sell tickets, sell records, make money. This song offended that philosophy in every possible way. So, did his father really beg him not to do it? It's very likely he expressed serious concern. The legend probably simplifies a broader feeling of fear and resistance from his whole team. It's easier to tell a story about a father and a son than about a committee meeting. But the core of the story is true. There was immense pressure on him to drop the song. He was being told by the people he trusted that this was a mistake. This was his moment of truth. He had just rediscovered his voice, his power. Was he going to use it, or was he going to put it back in the safe Hollywood box? Was he an artist, or was he just an entertainer? He made his choice. He walked into the studio and told Chip's Moment he was cutting the track. He reportedly told his worried friends something simple and profound. He said he wanted to do a song that mattered. He wasn't going to stay silent anymore. He was going to use his voice to say something. He felt he understood the song, and if he could sing it with honesty, people would understand it too. The recording session was intense. He worked hard on it. He wanted to get the feeling just right. He wasn't performing. He was testifying. He sang it with a kind of quiet sadness. There's no swagger in his voice. There's no hip-shaking energy. It's the voice of a narrator, a witness. He's just telling the story, letting the words do the work. The music behind him is just as restrained. A simple acoustic guitar opens it. The drums are a steady, somber heartbeat. The strings swell, but they don't overpower the story, they add to the sense of tragedy. When they finished, everyone in the control room knew they had something special. But they were still scared. It was one thing to record a song like this, it was another thing to release it as a single. To make it the song that would represent his grand return to serious music. Again, he insisted. He believed in it. The record label was nervous, but he was the king. What he said went. So, in early 1969, the record was released, the world held its breath. Would his father be right? Would his fans reject him? The song came on the radio. People heard that simple guitar. They heard his familiar voice. But singing about something so unfamiliar for him. They heard the story of the boy born on a cold and gray morning. They heard about his hunger, his anger, and his tragic end. They heard the cycle repeat, and they didn't turn away. They listened. The song was a massive hit. It shot up the charts all over the world. It went to number 3 in America. It was his first top 10 hit in 4 years. The comeback was real. The risk had paid off. It did more than just sell records. It changed the way people saw him. He wasn't a nostalgia act anymore. He was a contemporary artist engaging with the world around him. Critics who had dismissed him as a relic had to admit he had made one of the most relevant and powerful records of the year. He proved he was more than just a handsome face and a great voice. He had a conscience. The song didn't alienate his old fans. It earned him new ones. It showed a depth and a maturity that no one expected. For a generation that had grown up thinking of him as their parents' music, this song made them stop and listen. This was not a song about holding hands or being cruel. It was a song about life and death in a place that society preferred to ignore. And the biggest star in the world was forcing them to pay attention. Looking back, it was one of the most important moments of his career. It was a hinge point. It proved he still had the courage that made him a star in the first place. The courage to be different. The courage to take a chance. So, what about the story of his father? In the end, it doesn't really matter if Vernon literally got down on his knees and begged. What matters is the pressure was real. The fear was real. The risk was real. And his decision to ignore all of it was real. He chose the song over the advice. He chose the art over the business. He listened to his own heart, the heart of a poor boy from Mississippi who understood the story he was singing. He knew it was true, and he trusted that if he sang the truth, people would hear it. He went on to record other songs with a message. He sang about unity and understanding. But this was the first one. This was the one that broke the mold. It was a quiet, sad song about a boy who never had a chance. It was a story about a place where hope is hard to find. The song was In the Ghetto.